Welcome to the Story of Liberty. Well, it's Holy Week here as we approach Easter. There's always been one verse that I've always had a lot of interest in John 11:50. It said that, "Nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not." And Jesus Christ, the true high priest of God, we see him here standing before the false high priest named Caiaphas. And interestingly, both agreed to this, that Jesus said it is expedient that one man should die for the people and not that the whole nation should perish. And Caiaphas, the false high priest, said, "Well, let it be you." And Jesus said, "Let it be me." Well, years later, we know in 70 AD, the Romans came back and took that entire nation into slavery. They crucified some 100,000 Jews along the roads leading into Jerusalem. The roads coming into the city were lined with people dying in agony. This time, as we approach Holy Week, we remember that the Messiah, the true Messiah, the Christ, he was taken by the Romans and the Jews. They all wanted to kill him. And Caiaphas and his father-in-law, Annas, they were bent on carrying this out. Annas, he crusty old man who wanted to run everything. Jesus didn't answer him for a while when he was being questioned. He was silent, and Annas became uncomfortable. And Jesus said, I spoke openly to the world. I taught in the synagogue and in the temple where the Jews always resort. I didn't say anything in secret. It's interesting that these false priests were trying to kill the true high priest. Annas finally realized that he had met his match. He could go nowhere with the Christ, and he told his servants to take him away to the Sanhedrin. Well, now we know what happens later. They bring in false witnesses, we're told. And one after another, these false witnesses came, and no two could agree. Finally, this one tried to say something to make it seem like they were collaborating. But really, at the end of the day, no witnesses could agree. And Caiaphas was getting desperate. So he does something illegal. He just bloats out, and he finally says, "I adjure thee by the living God that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God." See, Caiaphas is violating the law, the Hebrew law. Even here in America, it's illegal. You cannot ask a man to witness against himself, to most certainly not to acknowledge that he's guilty of what would then be considered a capital crime. But that's what Jesus was waiting for, and Jesus looks at him in the eyes and he says, "Thou hast said." In other words, he's saying, yes, that is correct. And then he went further to say, "I am." "Blasphemy," cries Caiaphas. He has spoken blasphemy. He is guilty of death. So, my friends, here is the Christ declaring officially before the high court of Israel that he is the Christ, the Messiah. Caiaphas had no moral standard to judge. So here we see the great high priest, Christ, who is not ashamed of his people, and he's condemned to take his cross, and if they nail his feet and hands into that cross. But we know that he will rise again from the dead, and he does rise again from the dead. So at this holy time of year, we can rejoice and know that he is not dead. He is not gone. He is much alive, and he is the supreme ruler of this world and the Savior of all mankind. The question is, folks, as we approach this Holy Week, ask yourself, is he your Savior today? God bless you, and have a happy Easter.